Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online Series 13 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the previous episode, which I've linked down in the description below, we tried out this really interesting team with a core of Lugia, Ho, and Zeraora. This team finished in the top 100 on the ranked ladder in the previous ranked season, and it just has so many fun tricks up its sleeve. So we play a couple more games with it today. Huge thank you to the original creator for the team. I've linked their Twitter down in the description below, as well as a team report written by them and a rental and paste. And so, yeah, this team is really different from most teams we've tried out in Series 13 so far, and the games today are particularly exciting. The first one is a Lugia versus Ho Showdown, but all the games honestly are super fun, so hopefully you enjoy. And yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. If you do enjoy, please show support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the two, inspired by us using Ho and Lugia, I want to know what you think was the best designed Gen 2 Pokemon down in the comment section below. I have a huge sweet spot for Scizor, so that's my answer. But let me know yours down in the comment section below, and let's get started. Solgaleo Thundurus, Zamazenta, Ho-Oh, Whimsicott, Kyogre. Thundurus is pretty concerning to go up against here. As is Ho-Oh. As is Solgaleo. So what do I want to go with here? Ferrothorn can actually be super good in Azama Thundurus and Solgaleo. I think Dynamax Zeraora is a possibility, but I really need to figure out how to play around Solgaleo, and it involves stalling out its Dynamax. If I lead Zeraora plus Lugia, they could just go Whimsicott, Solgaleo, protect Whimsicott turn 1, Max Quake. That'd be pretty bad for me. And I don't want a Brutal Swing to activate a Weakness Policy on their end. Yeah, that's scary. I think Solgaleo is really good against us here, honestly, which isn't great for me. I think I want Zeraora, Zacian, Ferrothorn in the back. I'm not even Dynamaxing if I go with this core. I'll still go with Lugia in the fourth. I think if we can stall out their Dynamax, a late game Max Lugia can sweep through my opponent, but it's going to take a lot of work to get there. I think Solgaleo is a really big problem for me here, especially because it's likely as Weakness Policy. And it's a problem for a couple of reasons. It means I can't just default to Zeraora plus Lugia here and just go for like my Weakness Policy strategy. They're going to go with Kyogre Ho-Oh though. Okay. I mean, I would argue this is a very favorable lead for me, just because Zeraora puts on maximum pressure against both Pokemon right now. Choice Scarf Kyogre, though. Okay. Scarf Kyogre is fine here, right? I mean, what's stopping me from just clicking Fake Out plus Max, or Play Rough into it? I guess Kyogre could switch out into Solgaleo here. That's my one concern. I'm down to go for it, though. If they stay in here, we punish them so heavily. And I could look towards Dynamaxing Zeraora in subsequent turns. But, yeah, they just have a lot of defensive threats that also do a lot of damage to me. Like Ho and Solgaleo, that core's already tough to break through. If Kyogre weren't Choice Scarf here, I'd probably Dynamax on turn 1. But, okay, they're going to stay in, which is very good news for me. And we don't miss Play Rough. Okay, we'll take that. That is a very good turn. Probably Sacred Fire coming out from Ho-Oh, so now we're hoping to maybe dodge a burn. Oh, it's actually Earthquake instead. I mean, that is actually going to be a really good move into both Pokemon. Holy cow, that did so much. That's Life Orb Ho-Oh. Very cool. Very cool. So they were probably just going for Earthquake plus Water Spout on turn 1. And there's Solgaleo coming out now. Okay. If I were them, I'd probably protect the Ho-Oh here. You know what? Like, I really want to switch Zacian out into Lugia. Essentially, I really want the Weakness Policy strat to go off. But it's really risky if I'm activating Policy for them, right? Okay, I'm down to switch out into Lugia here. And then Behemoth Blade just for some chip damage on a Solgaleo. And like the logic here is I expect Ho to protect. I think Solgaleo might max and target either slot. And switching Zeraora out. Okay, they protect. Oh, Solgaleo did not Dynamax though, which is interesting. But I think that might imply an Earthquake. So basically what I was thinking of was going for Brutal Swing, switch in Lugia, activate the Weakness Policy, but the problem with that is that I would also activate a Solgaleo Policy, which is less than ideal. That's really good damage, honestly. And the Earthquake. Okay, this is really ideal, actually. Because now I get the free switch in back into Zeraora, and I can go for the Brutal Swing plus Max Quake onto the Solgaleo slot. So much about this game was like figuring out how I beat Solgaleo, but I think we might actually be in a position to do it now. Legion Ferrothorn's okay. Actually, I could just go for the KO onto Ho-Oh here, no? But I'm gonna, like, I think Solgaleo's the more likely Dynamax option between these two right now. What is their last one? That's the other question. It feels like it has to be Zamazenta. But yeah, I'm hoping they end up just activating Policy here on their Solgaleo, or sorry, Dynamaxing Solgaleo. But I think maxing Ho-Oh here would be a very strong play for them in this current position. It is a shame, though, because the Brutal Swing play I was thinking of going for last turn would have actually worked out brilliantly. Switching Lugia, activate Policy. Yeah, maybe activates Policy on Solgaleo, but then Earthquake would still KO me anyway. And then I would be able to bring Zacian back in and have Zacian and Lugia out next to each other. Or Lugia plus Ferrothorn. This isn't bad, though. I think like this is not the easiest matchup, and we've positioned ourselves at least to maybe threaten Solgaleo with the KO. I'm just worried that Solgaleo is bulky enough that with Dynamax it survives a +2 Max Quake, and then I end up activating Policy on their end. So we'll see. But if Solgaleo Dynamaxes here and Ho-Oh does not go for Dynamax, meaning they don't get Max Airstream off, then I outspeed Ho-Oh next turn. They don't have Dynamax to play with anymore, and I would feel fairly confident winning the game from that position, because Lugia can then just KO the Ho-Oh, and then Ferrothorn can solo whatever their final Pokemon is. So we'll see what Dynamax is here. I mean, Dynamax Ho-Oh here isn't the end of the world either, right? Because I would activate the Policy, I would KO the Solgaleo, and then like Lugia has multi-skill. Well, actually, I would break my multi-skill. But they correctly do Dynamax Ho-Oh, so nicely done. Okay, this should make for an interesting endgame, mainly because I have Ferrothorn as the last one. That's actually not ideal for me in this position. And they protect with Solgaleo. Very, very nicely done. Okay. I think this is going to be pretty rough for me, because now Ho should get a pretty major speed advantage against me, unless for some reason they flared rather than Airstreaming. So the thing is, I do get the Weakness Policy on Lugia off, but Landorus in the back here would have been substantially stronger for me in this one. I'm actually not confident I would have KO'd Solgaleo if it Dynamaxed, given how much Quake did, but not 100% sure. I guess we would get a little bit chip from Brutal Swing, but not very significant. Yep, there's Weakness Policy on Solgaleo. Okay. And they do correctly Airstream. Ah, this is where if I had Landorus, I'd be in such a better position. But yeah, I needed to read into who was going to Dynamax that turn, but I didn't want a Brutal Swing activate Policy on Solgaleo and then have Lugia basically be useless. If I had Airstreamed Ho-Oh there, we'd actually be in really solid shape, because then another Airstream presumably would KO, and then Ferrothorn could solo the endgame. But that is no longer the case. However, we can still definitely win this. Like, I can Airstream Ho-Oh here, protect Ferrothorn this turn, hope to bait out a Max Flare onto that slot, and then Airstream Ho-Oh again next turn, because if they don't Airstream here, they won't get a speed boost. So the question this turn is, do you just go for Flare to try to KO Ferrothorn, right? It will be Life Orb Max Flare, but I would have the Rain up currently. So I'm not really, I don't know, the early game was okay. I think, like, calling whoever was going to Dynamax incorrectly unfortunately hurt me a little bit. This isn't the easiest matchup, but as a result, I maybe should be making slightly riskier plays. Oh, Solgaleo actually switches into Zamazenta? Okay, this is smart if you're going for max Airstream this turn to give Zamazenta a speed boost. I really like that idea, if that's what they're trying to execute here. But if they're going for Flare, this suddenly becomes a really interesting game, because then my Lugia just outspeeds your Ho-Oh. Yeah, they do correctly Airstream. Very nicely done. Okay, into the Ferrothorn slot. Took 27 damage there. That was actually an opportunity to go for Leech Seed onto Ho-Oh. But the thing is, Lugia could totally 1v3 this game, right? Because I have Earth Power to KO both Zamazenta as well as the Solgaleo, and you just got rid of your boosts on the Solgaleo as well. So, actually, this is definitely doable. And we actually got a critical hit onto the Ho-Oh, which is definitely fairly lucky. It also shows the underwhelming damage output of Lugia. That was like a crit +2 max Airstream, and we did maybe 50%, a little bit less. I think 2 Airstreams would have KO'd Ho anyway with Life Orb damage. What do I want to do here? It makes sense for them to go for like coaching airstream. I could see the max guarding here. Yeah, I mean, I really think Lugia can win this given that switch out play that they made. Like, I'm down to max airstream and go for a double protect here. Because if I survive, if I get the double, then your flare doesn't KO me. And then it's just Lugia Ferrothorn against Zamazenta Solgaleo. I can't believe we have a Lugia versus Ho-Oh matchup, though. That's so cool. And yeah, the other thing is like, okay, we go for the double. We don't get it, but that means Ho-Oh is not going for max guard. Okay, they actually have Snarl here, but that's okay. I could also see them like targeting Lugia, but I would always target Ferrothorn here, given that I just protected. You could flare into that slot. Oh, wow, their Ho-Oh's not that speedy. I just outspeed it. Okay. Well, that's huge. I think that just wins us the game. So this is what one of the better upsides of Lugia, right? Its base speed is actually really nice. So they were at +2 speed, we were at +1 speed, but they probably were very invested in HP and attack, and as a result, we were actually able to just KO them. So that was a really pleasant surprise. However, it meant that I would have likely, like that crit definitely then did matter because they had Snarl on the Zamazenta. So if I didn't get the critical hit there, then the second max airstream probably doesn't KO. And so that was definitely a very lucky crit. And now they don't have a way to beat the Ferrothorn. +2 speed Ferrothorn. +2, +1 special attack. I have Earth Power here. And Solgaleo does not have their Weakness Policy anymore. So I'm going to just Earth Power and then Leech Seed here. Into Zamazenta. Earth Power should KO Solgaleo here, I would think. We're at +1. Super effective. Nice. Okay, Solgaleo faints. This was the value of Ferrothorn. It was really good against everything that wasn't named Ho-Oh. But yeah, like my opponent did a really good job finding the Dynamax on Ho-Oh in this game. And also just a really cool team overall. But I'm very happy to come out with the win here because I think the matchup looked really scary. Okay, so we get Leech Seed. And yeah, I mean, Zamazenta is never going to win at this point. You just don't do any damage into Ferrothorn. But I think the scary thing here is that both Ho-Oh and Solgaleo were pretty major threats, and I definitely wasn't expecting Life Orb on the Ho-Oh, because like I feel like, especially because that's like the opposite of the Ho-Oh that we have on this team, right? Where we essentially don't really do any damage with it. It's just like max HP, max defense, essentially. So they just are power and body press now. We could go for Iron Defense, but like Zamazenta is just not doing enough damage to us at this point, so like 2 turns is always going to win us the game anyway. And they just go for Behemoth Bash, yeah. But I mean, never really expected to have a Lugia versus Ho-Oh showdown here, and so I think that's really cool. Yeah, we'll eat the Bash. That doesn't really do very much damage. So, Lugia is such an interesting Pokemon, right? Like, I think it's truly not the best restricted because, yeah, like, even with Weakness Policy and Dynamax, its damage output can be a little bit underwhelming. But you have a couple of advantages with it, right? Like, a great ability, great base speed, and really, really great bulk as well, you know? I do wonder how it'd be if you gave it like 10 or 20 more special attack, but then maybe it then becomes too strong, right? Where it's like it's super bulky, and then Weakness Policy sets are way too powerful as well. So yeah, it's really cool to have a Lugia versus Ho-Oh showdown there. But yeah, that critical hit onto Ho-Oh definitely could have been game changing in the end, because I think Lugia had the potential to like 1v3 my opponent's team in that end game, especially thanks to Earth Power, Thunder Wave, and Recover. But it would have been a lot more difficult in my opinion. I guess, though, Ferrothorn had the opportunity to go for a double protect there as well. If we get that, like a double protect or a crit or a miss from Snarl, any of those could benefit us, but the odds, I think, are still more in my opponent's favor. So definitely a little bit of good fortune there, but that was not an easy matchup, and so sometimes when you play against bad matchups, yeah, like a little bit of luck can go a very, very long way. So yeah, either way, though, we get a classic Lugia Ho-Oh showdown, so let's keep things going. Okay, we've got Dialga, Solgaleo, Calyrex, Ice, Incineroar, Mungus, Porygon 2. Ferrothorn's going to be the star here, but I suspect they might have Taunt on the Incineroar or Flamethrower around Dialga. Huh, Stealth Rock is actually interesting to me here. Flamethrower on Dialga is essentially the major question. Ho-Oh's really interesting thanks to Mystical Fire here, as well as being able to fish for burns with Sacred Fire. If they want to set up Trick Room here, there's not much I can do to really stop it. So, I'm down for something like a Ho-Oh plus Ferrothorn lead. Actually, if I were them, I'd probably just lead Incineroar plus Porygon too, right? So, assuming they lead that, what can I really do? I don't have anything to really stop that lead, do I? Yeah, not really. Like, because we're so defensive here, we don't have enough damage pressure on a Porygon too, which is the problem. Okay. I'm down to try out this Ho-Oh Ferrothorn idea. I don't think Zeraora is good here at all. And Zacian Lugia in the back. Basically, the idea is that, like, Ferrothorn is amazing in this matchup other than going up against Dialga. I guess there's also a chance they don't have a Fire-type attack on Dialga, which would be huge for us here. I guess the upside is if they go with Incineroar and Porygon 2, you can click Fake Out on a Ferrothorn turn 1, sure, but then I can just click Iron Defense the subsequent turn. But Flamethrower Dialga is what I'm worried about. That is Incineroar and Porygon 2, yep. I mean, they could just Flare Blitz Ferrothorn on turn 1 as well. That's the other thing to watch out for. If I were them, I'd actually consider just Flare Blitzing here, truthfully. Let's download. Special attack boost is not ideal. I also think Thunder Waving things in this matchup might be okay, but I think turn 1 here, I'm down to actually just Sacred Fire into Incineroar in case they try to get fancy and like hard switch, and then just Protect. I don't expect to get much off this turn, but that's okay, because I can Iron Defense next turn. Wow, that's a nice read. They Fake Out into Ho-Oh. Nicely done. Okay. What do I want to do here? I'm down to Iron Defense, and then I'm going to Sacred Fire the Incineroar, because I could see them clicking Parting Shot here. I don't really expect that to be the case, but if they do switch into, you know, Calyrex Ice and I burn them, that's a disaster for them. If I were them, I'd actually probably just Flare Blitz Ice Beam Ferrothorn there. That was a really risky turn 1 on their end, in the sense that if I Iron Defense, they're in super bad shape, but... And, like, the reason why, like... I do have a play to counteract them Flare Blitzing, right, which is switching into Landorus immediately, and so if I were actually playing a best of 3, I would immediately think about bringing Landorus in the back just to deal with this lead, because this is the lead I called out immediately, right? I actually switch Porygon out. Okay, that works for me, I think. Solgaleo comes out. We'll get Iron Defense up. We'll see if Incineroar Flare Blitz is here. Yeah, they do. But we'll survive now, thanks to the Iron Defense. Yeah, that is just over 50%. So you take a lot of recoil. I wonder... my main question is whether or not Body Press KOs this next turn. I actually think it should KO. And if I expected a KO, then we would just get a knockout, and then Ho-Oh also pressures with Sacred Fire Burn onto Solgaleo. And I'm actually down to Sacred Fire here, because I think a burn would be potentially game-winning immediately. So I'm just going to Body Press Incineroar here, try to get rid of that. Because Incineroar is a huge nuisance to what I have in the back. So they are going to Dynamax Solgaleo, okay. I think Solgaleo gets Fire Fang, right? Right? So it can Max Flare here. Oh, that might be the case. That'd be really annoying. But then I guess if I were to burn Solgaleo, we could stall out its Dynamax. I just can't believe we fought 2 Solgaleo teams in a row. Because it's not an easy matchup. Because I can't, like, easily activate Weakness Policy, right, on Lugia. Alright, +2 Body Press onto Incineroar. Nice, that's a KO. Okay. See if you have Max Flare here, then. Oh, I'm faster with Ho-Oh as well. Okay, let's see if we get a burn here. We do get the burn! Okay. It does activate a Weakness Policy, though, so I guess in the end, they're still doing the same amount of damage. And they go for Max Lightning. I don't even think this KOs thanks to the burn. We're Max HP, Max Defense. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's go. This is the power of the Ho-Oh set here. It's super bulky. The burn is really lucky for sure, right? But I think one thing that's been interesting today is the speed dynamic, like getting surprise outspeeds. This one isn't actually that surprising because the Ho-Oh doesn't have much speed investment. I think it was, what, like 28 speed EVs or something like that. But now my opponent's in really bad shape. I was willing to go for the burn chance there, right? Because even if I don't get it, I think it's still winnable for us, thanks to the Ferrothorn being at +2 defense already. The game certainly would have been a lot more difficult, so I certainly have to acknowledge that I had, you know, very good fortune throughout the course of today's episode so far. But we'll definitely take those. Okay, so they brought out Calyrex now. We know that that doesn't have weakness policy. Just double check the board state. 2 turns of Trick Room left. I'm at -1 attack. You pressure me with Max Lightning here. I'm down to switch out into Zacian. Protect Ferrothorn this turn. Actually, I could just go for another Iron Defense, no? But they could have Max Flare here, so I still want to scout for that. This also could be a late-game Dynamax Ho game at this point, as odd as that seems, because it's super good into Calyrex and Solgaleo, whereas Lugia is honestly fairly useless for us at this point. I think we can protect Ferrothorn here, see what Solgaleo goes for, and then just protect the Zacian next turn. They just Glacial Lance, beautiful. This could be a Max Quake going into the Zacian slot though, right? Because like, they might say, okay, well Glacial Lance is going to KO your Ho-Oh from that range, although I don't know how confident they are on that damage calc. That was a lot of damage though, jeez. Yeah, they just go for Lightning, cool. I expect to survive this, but let's see. Wow, it actually KOs. Nah, it was a crit, but I can't complain about a crit given the good fortune I've had today, so that's okay. Okay, now what? Now, I am down to bring out Ho-Oh, I think. Yeah, I think we actually do end up Dynamaxing Ho-Oh in this game. I can Max Guard here. I should have maybe boosted up Ferrothorn more last turn. I'm thinking essentially just Max Guard and Body Press here. And then the next turn I can just Max Flare the Calyrex slot. And then Leech Seed with Ferrothorn. My problem with how I play this is that I have not gotten a Leech Seed up with Ferrothorn. Because a single Leech Seed means I'm healing back so much more each turn. That crit was a little bit unfortunate because the crit doesn't happen. I can probably just switch out Zacian into Lugia, but like I said, I've had plenty of good luck today, so can't really complain about something like that. And like we're still in an okay spot to win this game, right? So just gotta focus on not making any major misplays. But yeah, I don't really love how I played with Ferrothorn after the first turn. It's really good damage from Body Press though. They just go for Lance, cool. I was worried about like a potential Max Flare this whole time from Solgaleo, but it doesn't look like they have it. Nicely done though. They do go for Max Quake here onto the Ferrothorn slot, so that is not going to do very much though. Okay, cool. The beautiful thing now is like even if my opponent sets up Trick Room, Ferrothorn just kind of beats them under Trick Room, but if you don't set up Trick Room, my Ho-Oh is just going to get fire type attacks against you, right? So they're in a really tricky spot. And I just wanted a Max Guard there because I knew this is the last turn of Solgaleo's Dynamax, so even with them reading into that correctly, like I don't even think it's that bad for me, right? Okay, just gonna double check. I mean, we have Mystical Fire here, like... Yeah, our base attack is higher. Or not base attack, sorry. Just attack. Yeah, so we're just going to Flare into Calyrex here, and then I'm just going to protect the Ferrothorn here for recovery. I also now know you don't have weakness policy on Calyrex, right? It's funny, like the burn chance from Sacred Fire here is honestly so strong. Okay, they actually switch out, which is fine by me. Because we're slowly getting to the point where Ferrothorn can just win this game for us. I'm mainly curious how fast the Porygon is on their end, because I can potentially... Max Airstream. I also now set up the Sun, so I can just Flare Solgaleo next turn. Okay, they just Wild Charge us. That's fine. And I get Max Flare off here. An Ice Beam from Porygon is, I think, what I'm most worried about in this current moment. Okay. I'm down to Max Airstream here. And Body Press into the Porygon slot. Because we get a speed boost as well, allowing us to outspeed Solgaleo the next turn. This got pretty scary though, I think, because of the Porygon being able to switch in. Okay, they just go for Wild Charge again. That's fine. We'll survive. Yep. Given that, I actually expect Ferrothorn to even survive an Ice Beam here, but I guess we'll see. Okay, we get Airstream off there. Cool. That was a crit, so that was pretty lucky. Does Ferrothorn even outspeed min-speed Porygon after a speed boost? No, the answer is yes. That's like such a weird thing to see, right? Like giving Ferrothorn a speed boost to outspeed something, but it actually works because my opponent's team is a little bit slower here. Okay, that's pretty huge because now like my opponent's stuck with 2 physical attackers in this endgame against the Ferrothorn, right? Which is pretty nice. And I've got Lugia in the back as well. Terrain disappears. I now outspeed the Solgaleo, so I can just click Sacred Fire into that slot. My question is whether or not a Mystical Fire KOs. And I think I want to just Leech Seed into Calyrex here. But this was, I don't know, this endgame, I don't love how I, like, play this, because after turn 1, I feel like we should have been in really good shape, personally, but... Yeah, I think here I'm willing to just go for Sacred Fire into Solgaleo, and then just Leech Seed into Calyrex. Because, like, Ferrothorn's at the point now where it might just be able to win this game for us by itself. Beautiful. They protect Calyrex, but, I mean, Solgaleo's not protecting, so we don't miss Sacred Fire here. That should be game over, and yeah, we hit it. Wonderful. This was a really interesting game, right? Because it shows us the, like, potential flexibility of Dynamaxing something that's not Lugia. We've played pretty Lugia-centric games so far while using this team, but yeah. And, like, this is what Ferrothorn is designed for, but I think in best of 1, it's just really scary because there could be a random fire-type attack to snipe the Ferrothorn, because my opponent's team looks really Ferrothorn weak, right? So in my head, I was like, okay, how do you actually beat Ferrothorn? But now I can just Sacred Fire and then just, we can just Body Press at this point. Actually, instead of Sacred Fire, we want a Mystical Fire here because I don't risk missing, and then Body Press. We could still lose this game theoretically, so I don't want to like risk missing any attacks in this position. They end up forfeiting, but basically like there was a win condition where if I miss Sacred Fire and Calyrex is faster than Ferrothorn and they Glacial Lance and just crit the Ferrothorn, then suddenly I don't get any damage onto the Calyrex, and then it's Lugia versus the Calyrex, right? But if I just get the Mystical Fire there in Sun, it should be an Aeroblast or maybe even Earth Power KO range. So that was kind of the logic there. It was still, I mean, it's very likely we would have won that, but I just want to cover for all my bases, right? And like, just want to make sure like we don't lose to something like that, because Calyrex is one of those Pokemon that can just snowball the game out of control even when you have a major lead. But we've had some really interesting games today, and you know, I've definitely gotten a good amount of fortune, so yeah, certainly got to acknowledge that. I think the nature of a team like this is like, you know, I'm actually more vulnerable to bad RNG because like we're really bulky and we're staying on the field for a long time. So it's the fact that it's been the opposite, you know, happening right now is you know, very favorable. Okay, last one here, and it's Kyogre, Zacian, Calyrex, Grim, Groudon, Yveltal. I really like Zeraora plus Zacian here. It counters Yveltal really hard, and I think like a lot of players like to lead Yveltal into this team because of the Lugia. So go with that as the lead. What do I want in the back? Landorus as a switch into Groudon's always fairly valuable. I think it's Lugia here, although you could actually make an argument for Ferrothorn, but then I'm only bringing 2 restricteds, and my damage output already isn't great. Ferrothorn can't Body Press into Calyrex, and there might be a Fire-type attack on Groudon as well. Special Yveltal Max Airstream or Oblivion Wing just does a lot to Ferrothorn as well. And if it could even have Heat Wave, especially if it's like a Life Orb set, right? Or an Assault Vest set. So we'll see. I think like Dynamaxing Zeraora is actually top of my mind right now, because it's flexible with Max Airstream. Getting a speed boost on a Zacian in this game is really nice, because like right now my Zeraora and Zacian are essentially slower than some of their Pokemon, like Calyrex and, you know, their Zacian. But a speed boost would change that. It's Kyogre and Grimmsnarl. Okay. Are they Choice Scarf here? That's the first piece of information. Okay, they're not. I expect it to be bulky Assault Vest then here, I think. Got Lugia in the back. I honestly want to start this with just a Max Lightning on a Kyogre and a Behemoth Blade onto it. I don't know if this is the best play, but I don't know. If they don't reflect with Grimmsnarl on turn 1, like, maybe I just KO Kyogre? This was kind of a weird lead to go up against. But what? If I went Zeraora Lugia, I don't think it would have been that much stronger because we don't exert that much offensive pressure. I could have also gone, like, I don't know, fake out Behemoth Blade, Grimmsnarl, deny screens, but then Kyogre can just threaten me with so much damage. The other thing is, my play here would, like, really punish them if they didn't Dynamax Kyogre. And there is a chance they just click Origin Pulse or Water Spout on turn 1, but they do go for the Dynamax. For now, I'm okay with this, because even if they get a KO onto Zacian, like, I get a ton of damage onto you, even if you set up Reflect. But the question is how I beat their really fast-paced Pokemon in the end game, because they're using, like, the early bulk here. But, oh! Okay, they actually go for Trick, which means now you have my Assault Vest. I wonder if we just KO Kyogre here. If we do... I didn't say we win the game, but we would be in super, super good shape. I think we might get the knockout here. That would be so satisfying. And yeah, Lagging Tail doesn't apply until after this turn. Oh, that is so nice. I was expecting Reflect, right? But I was like, okay, even if you Reflect, I do like probably 70% to your health, and then I have Max Lightning into you next turn. I mean, we just knocked out my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon. We took no damage in return. And the Grimmsnarl went for Trick, and it can't do anything into Zeraora. So, yeah, it's going to be really hard for them to win this now. Okay, they bring out Zacian. That's fine. But, you know, when you have a major lead like this, you just want to make sure you don't throw the game. So let's still play to the best of our ability, because a late game Calyrex plus Zacian can still definitely sweep me, in my opinion. Here, I'm actually willing to go for Max Airstream onto the Grimmsnarl slot, and then... yeah, I'm down to switch out into Landorus right now, because we give Landorus a speed boost, and then it can Bulldoze, and then just drop everything's speed. That turn 1 was... I couldn't have asked for a better turn 1, honestly. The only way it could have been better is if they clicked, like, Fake Out onto Zeraora, rather than us having Lagging Tail, but I'm very happy with this outcome. So basically, the logic here is our Landorus has really interesting speed control, right? And basically, I'm worried about them having Zacian plus Calyrex Shadow Rider, for example. They just Behemoth Blade, that's fine by me. We get an Intimidate off into them. The other thing is, like, my Zacian's really critical to winning this endgame for us, right? Thanks to the speed control, thanks to the damage output that we have from it. Yeah, they just Spirit Break Zeraora, that's fine. And now I give a speed boost onto the Landorus slot, which is really sweet. I almost want to just set up Stealth Rock here. I'm not even opposed to, like, clicking Max Lightning onto Zacian here, as well as an Earthquake. Maybe Bulldoze is better here. I don't want to just KO my own Zeraora for no reason. Ooh, they switch. Fine by me. Oh, okay, but their last one is Yveltal. I mean, that's really good for me, though, because I went for Lightning onto that slot. That covered for Yveltal or Calyrex as a switch in. So I'm pretty happy with this outcome. And this is the one awkward thing about using Trick, right, on something like Grimmsnarl. If you steal an Assault Vest, you are really not nearly as effective as you want to be, right? And, like, what's really awkward for my opponent now is, like, they're just staying on the field with this Grimmsnarl, right? Which makes a lot of sense. I can go for Lightning there. That just one-shots Yveltal. Beautiful. And don't forget, we still have the speed boost on the Lander. So this is why, like, I really valued switching it in, giving us a speed boost, so then I can, yeah, just outspeed everything with it. I'm so happy with this episode, though. Like, we had some really cool games, and we ended up Dynamaxing 3 different restricteds with Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Zeraora. So it shows you, like, the strength of potentially playing flexible, right, in a format like this. Okay, just double check the field state real quick. One other thing to consider is maybe Quick Attack on their Landorus here. Or quick attack from Zacian onto my landers, I should say. I'm down to just Plasma Fists here into the Grimmsnarl slot. I'd rather just Earthquake here, to be honest, just to KO the Grimmsnarl. I'm not sure Bulldoze gets the KO. They protect, but that's fine. I KO your Grimmsnarl, and then I just bring out Zacian. I can, or Lugia, and I can just Bulldoze into Earth Power. Because I know right now Grimmsnarl can't go for anything other than Spirit Break, or maybe a Sucker Punch. So I don't KO, I don't mind KOing my own Zeraora here. And I don't want to switch into Lugia, because I don't want them to potentially, like, break the multi-scale on it, right? But now I can go into Lugia, and we can go for Bulldoze Earth Power. This way we just go for attacks that are 100% accurate. Drop Zacian's speed. Yep. And yeah, we don't risk missing. Earthquake plus Earth Power actually probably also works here. We have such a big lead, and yeah, they end up forfeiting. I mean, this game was won off turn 1. I think it's pretty much impossible to come back after that. But yeah. Like, you know, the question is whether or not Dynamaxing Zeraora was the most optimal there, but I figured, one, my opponent wouldn't fully expect it there, because I feel like Zeraora is seen so much as a support-oriented Pokemon in this format. And that gamble literally just won us the game immediately, because Zacian was super good into the rest of my opponent's team. So, yeah. These are some really, really fun games, and yeah, this team is really creative. Like, it is definitely one of the most unique teams we've used in Series 13. And once again, it finished in the top 100 in the last ranked season, so it is super legit as well, right? Just plays in a very different manner than I'd say a lot of the teams, because it's so much more defensive than a lot of the hyper offense that we've gone up against or used ourselves in this format. So thank you so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to check out the original team and its creator down in the description below, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.